Hello and welcome to my latest weekly video news from Madison's. Well, I'm sorry I didn't get a video to you last week. I had all sorts of technicalities. You probably heard the sound has been a bit strange lately. I've got a new mic. I couldn't get it to work, and then my phone had no storage. It was a disaster. And my video editor is on holiday next week, so this will be my last video for a couple of weeks, waiting for her to return so she can edit it all together and make it look nice and professional for you. So anyway, let's get on with the latest news. Well, of course, wasn't it a tumultuous week last week with what was going on at the government level? And of course, Boris has now quit. Waiting to see a new candidate, and it was interesting to see certainly Sajid Javid talking on a Sunday programme that I was watching yesterday with Sophie Raworth. I think you probably know the one, and looking to cut tax rates, as indeed is Jeremy Hunt. And of course, it'll be interesting to see what that does, because taxing is a great way of controlling inflation. Again, you're putting less money in people's pockets, means less money to go around, less buyer demand, prices do start to fall. So it will be interesting to see what will happen with that. The reason they want to do that, of course, is they think it will be a short-term pain to the economy for the next couple of years, but then will stimulate a lot more money circulating and will result in basically not leading to what's called a stagflation environment. Stagflation is when you have negative growth combined with inflation. It's a very dangerous world to be in, and not easy to get yourself out of at all. So that's why they're looking to do that. And of course, one change we did see was our lovely local MP, Greg Clark, getting the role of Housing Secretary. Of course, he was in the Cabinet back in 2015, 2016. A very experienced, safe pair of hands is generally the view that will be seen. And it'll be interesting to see how he continues with the big things that are on the agenda for the housing department, which is all to do with tenants reform, leaseholds, and improving fire safety of those big buildings. One thing that obviously is coming out of tenants reform, they're trying to make it, one of the things they're looking at is abolishing Section 21, and there is a feeling that things are slanting more in favour of the tenant. Of course, a few years ago we had the tenant fee ban. That looked to mean that nobody could basically, a letting agent couldn't charge a tenant, sorry, are they gone? Yeah. Home clothes today. They're all in their own clothes. So basically letting agents couldn't charge tenants many fees. And one of the fees that went away as a result of that was if you had a pet. So basically what a letting agent would do is they would charge an extra amount of money, sit as a kind of extra damage deposit if the pet damaged the property. And indeed, a recent survey showed that 50% of times landlords have been unable to recoup the costs that had been caused by a pet damaging a property. So one of the things that the government is looking at is to give you a right to have a pet stay with you. Obviously, following the pandemic, a lot more people do have pets, following a greater ability to be at home and look after them. And the government thinks it's only fair that if you're renting property, you have a right to have a pet stay with you, and a landlord will have a difficulty refusing that. But they are recognising that pets do cause more damage, that with reducing the ability to take extra money to cover that damage, it's not fair on landlords. So looking to make it mandatory at the same time to have pet insurance to repair properties when a tenant leaves and damage has been done by a pet. So yeah, Greg Clark got a lot to get his head around with those various bits and pieces that are all happening. So yeah, interesting times ahead. But just very quickly, generally on the market, Zoopla brought out its latest house price index. Price growth is slowing. So annualised to the year end of May, it was sitting at 8.4%. And if you look at the annualised growth to the year end of April, it was at 9.2%. So a 0.1% growth in the month of May alone, the lowest amount of growth that has been seen now for about 18 months. So a sign that the prices, the growth we've seen are slowing, and that is exactly what we would expect to see with rising interest rates, the energy crisis, and all the other extra costs that we're all experiencing as a result of that raging inflation. Still not expecting the market to crash. What are the trends we're expecting to see? A reduction in buyer demand, that's already being seen. Time taken to sell a property lengthening slightly. The capital still struggling the most. Wales still faring the best. And generally moving to a more normal, regularised market with growth of around 3% to 4% per annum. So yeah, no big crash ahead. Well, finally, just to end, a great property that we have launched in Speldhurst. It's a really beautiful semi-detached Victorian property. It's got the rare attraction of having a gate with access to the wreck that sort of sits in the middle of Speldhurst. It's a really lovely wreck. It's got a playground. There's lots of events that are held there. So great to have that access, presented exquisitely, and off-road parking to the front. It's on at a guide price of £675,000. So if you'd like to see all the details, do please give me a call. And big congratulations to the organisers of Pub in the Park. I was there last weekend, just gone. It was brilliant. I'd encourage anybody next year to look to going next year, helped by this amazing weather we're having. But what an event, and so lovely to see so much of Tunbridge Wells out celebrating in this glorious weather. Well, I hope you have a lovely week. Stay cool. It's going to get hot, 40 degrees. But I look forward to seeing you not next week, the week after. Bye-bye.